Hello YouTube, this is Neon. Today I'm going to be talking about, this is supposed to be fixed already, deaths in Skid Row. So I had moved to Skid Row for the first time in, I think it was late January or February of 2004. I moved into an SRO. An SRO is basically a bedroom that will have a little sink in it, but it will not have a kitchen and it will not have a restroom. And each floor will have so many restrooms, so those are public. These are not really sanitary places to live in. I believe these places are illegal nowadays, so I don't think they're building new SROs. The one that I initially moved into, I stayed at for a year. They've since they didn't tear it down, but they gutted it and they rebuilt it. I don't know what it's like now. And it was privately owned. It had been a slum, and the previous owner had been kicked out of the country for the slum conditions. When I moved in, it wasn't, I guess, a complete slum, but it was still pretty bad. This lady had come to my room one day. My room was cracked open. It was my bedroom door was cracked open because it was sweltering hot in the summer. This place was not well ventilated, stunk profusely, and leaving the door closed would be like stepping into an oven. So she came to my room sometime probably at night and asked me a certain question that I think amounted to trying to see if I had crack, and she and I could have sex if I had crack to offer her, which I didn't. I've experimented with crack, but I smoked it twice. The second time was years ago, and I don't plan on ever smoking it again. So this is the same lady who died. Some guy had chased her out of our building. She did not make it quite across the street, and he stabbed her to death. When I was getting home from either work or acting class, it was late at night. They wouldn't even let me drive up the street so I get into my parking space. I don't remember how I ended up parking or where I ended up parking, but when I walked up to my building, they had already taken this lady's body, and there was blood all over the street, and there were these numbered markers where the detectives were recording, charting, I don't know the word, but y'all know what I'm talking about, all of the evidence. Later on, what people were saying was that, particularly this one woman, was that there was a bunch of people outside when he attacked her, when he was stabbing her to death, and nobody really helped. Finally, when someone did help, who, by the way, was an immigrant, anyway, it was kind of too late. He ended up hitting the guy over the head with a shovel. And I talked to this guy, and he told me that when he hit the guy, he said the guy acted like it didn't even hurt, and just gave him a look like he was about to start stabbing him to death, and he took the shovel to hit him again, and the guy took off running. Apparently it did hurt. But, and he said that the woman sort of gave him a look of gratitude before she died, because he did stop her from stabbing this woman, but the damage was already done, and this lady did die. And so this lady complained that none of the guys, except for this one gentleman, tried to stop him. And there's women who are heroes. Maybe she should have tried to stop. Apparently she was out there when it was happening. She could have tried to stop him. Women have been heroes, and women have tried to stop. But I think it's a shame either way that people didn't react sooner, and I don't know that I would have reacted sooner. I don't know that I wouldn't have pissed my pants and been shaking and too afraid that I was going to get stabbed to help. So that was a tragic death. There was a guy whose name I don't know. He had lived in our building, and I didn't really know him that well. He never had a word. We never exchanged words, if I'm not incorrect. And I believe he lived in the floor above me. But I heard that he had some drug dealings, and I heard that he had died shortly after moving out of the building. though I don't know much about him. And the woman who told me was a reliable source. But who knows? Maybe she believed someone who didn't know. But apparently he died. I don't even remember how he died. Now, there was a lady in the building who was really pretty. She actually kind of looked younger than her age. Very thin. And her name was Charlene. And with all these people, may their souls rest in peace. You know, may they hopefully be in the heavenly choirs amongst the angels. That's my hope. But Charlene died of a drug overdose in an alley where she was found. There was rumors that had spread that she had been killed by a serial killer, and I actually believed it. And I told the manager about, oh my God, you know, and the manager said, no, she died of a drug overdose. And she had spoken to this lady's family when the lady's family came to pick up her stuff. And that basically that Charlene was really deep in drug addiction and crack addiction, and it just took her life. She used too much one day and it took her life. But I also suspect, and I don't know if the manager told me this, but I suspect that she died of starvation because she was incredibly thin. And she really didn't lose her beauty, but, you know, apparently she had been prostituting as well. So we only exchanged words a couple of times, and I don't think that she was fully coherent the few times that we talked. But there seemed to be something special about her. She seemed like a beautiful lady deep down inside, but drug addiction really screws people up. So her body was found in the alley and she died. I don't think anybody should have to die in Skid Row. There was another guy who served in the military, thank you for serving, Bob, who died of complications of diabetes. He was ripped off by a lady who was very helpful to him after he got out of the hospital. Initially, I don't know what exactly happened, but it was related to diabetes. When he had been hospitalized for like a month, and when he got out of the hospital, he dropped like 50 pounds or something. I mean, he looked like a totally different person. It was frightening. But he was so weak when he came out of the hospital, this other woman named Debbie, we'll call her Evil Debbie, she was helping him. He told me that he couldn't even go to the restroom. She had to help him get to the restroom. And eventually she ripped him off. She ripped off his camera. She ripped off $100 or $200. And he said that he refused to press charges on her. Although he did apparently tell the manager. But he refused to press charges because he said, you know, she was really, really helpful to me. He said, so. Now, I actually had begun to prepare meals for Bob. My food, my cooking, just wanted to help him out. And one day I screwed up and I mentioned to him that I was cooking on a hot plate. We weren't supposed to have hot plates. We were supposed to use the kitchen downstairs that always had roaches. So I wouldn't use it. I would go down there and use the microwave, but I would not use the stove, and I wouldn't store any of my cooking utensils or food or anything down there because I can't stand roaches. I can't be around roaches. So when Bob found out that I was using a hot plate and breaking the rules, he wouldn't take my food anymore. I was like, yeah, but you need this food. You said my cooking is good and you need help. So that was that. I couldn't help him anymore with the food. I shouldn't have told him that I was cooking with a hot plate. But it's like, I wasn't using drugs. I wasn't a danger. I wasn't going to burn the house down. Like, come on, just take the food. But anyway, there was another death. And this gentleman's name, I think his name was Bob too. Actually, I don't remember his name. Everybody called him Sarge. Sarge apparently served in the military, fought in Vietnam. Thank you for serving, Sarge. Everybody called him Sarge. Apparently he was a sergeant in the military. I saw him one time, and he was so thin, and I could see his pecs. Not his pecs. His ribs. That's what I was trying to say. His ribs going all the way up to his chest. You know, you could count his ribs going all the way down because he was so emaciated. And I saw him this one summer, and I just thought, damn, he's thin. I didn't know he was dying of starvation, because he too, Sarge, was addicted to crack, or it might have been meth. When he died, I remember the police came. They guarded that little wing of the floor. Sarge was on my floor, and I saw it. I saw the police there, and quickly, you know, everybody knew. So someone told me he died, and the police is there guarding his room until the coroner gets there. They want to make sure it was natural causes, which it was. And I left. I was like, I don't want to see nobody, no corpse, you know, no cadaver. I don't want to see nobody being shipped out. And I'm grateful that I did, because they said that even though he had died within a 24-hour period of his body being found, that his body had already begun to decay, and that the whole floor smelled of death. You know, it smelled of his rotting body. And I believe, like I said, it had been within 24 hours. It was about 24 hours prior that he had died, but he had already begun to decay. A neighbor of his who I became friends with, she told me, she's the one who told me that he starved to death, which made sense afterwards. But she told me that he used all of his money on drugs, he didn't buy food, he paid rent so he wouldn't be homeless, but he didn't buy himself food and take care of himself. She said that he would go to her room and ask her for a yogurt, for some kind of food, and she said, I would give him food sometimes, but I couldn't afford to feed him. I couldn't afford to feed him. So she said he basically starved to death, which is unfortunate, because with certain kinds of drugs, they can so completely take over a person's life that a person doesn't eat. So there's lots of places that do serve food in Skid Row, and there was times where I needed to go there and get food, and I did. A lot of times the food's not edible. You know, it can be hit or miss. Sometimes the food is good, but whatever the case was, he did not get enough food and he starved to death. Sadly, probably within a week of his dying, perhaps days, perhaps more than a week, he was out there panhandling, and he took all of his medals, and he was wearing all of his medals. It was almost like the last stand, if you will. He was wearing all of his medals, and he was panhandling, and I don't think I ever gave him money. But Sarge did pass away. Apparently he did a great job of serving our country during Vietnam. He had a lot of medals, but this is another situation of my years in Skid Row. I may wind up writing a book, because there's so many unique things. All of these people's lives mattered and were valuable, and most were drug related, and I wish that somehow they could have been rescued. I feel that I'm lucky, and more than lucky, protected by God, so that I have not become addicted to drugs. I don't even smoke pot now. But for some of these people, particularly Bob and Sarge and Charlene, their deaths were poignant and mattered to me, and it's sad now that I think about it. But I wish them the best. I hope that they're all, I'm getting emotional, resting in peace, and hopefully singing in the heavenly choirs. So, if you like this video, please like, subscribe, share, comment commercials, recommend my videos, do one or more of those things. Thank you, and best wishes.